Hi, my name is Joseph Parker, WBO champion of the world, and you're watching Sporting Icons.
Right, so in this video we're going to talk about the IBF mandatory situation in the heavyweight division, of course with Filip Hrgovic. There seem to be quite a few fighters turning down the fight with Filip Hrgovic for the IBF final eliminator to become the IBF mandatory. Now, before we get into the list and see who's turned it down and what position that we're currently in right now as to who Filip Hrgovic looks like he could well be fighting next, it's important to note that the IBF mandatory has only just been completed when Anthony Joshua defeated Kubrat Pulev. So because of that, the mandatory is then reset, which is why the number one position is currently vacant. But because of that, because Joshua is a unified champion, they go in order. So next will be the WBO, currently Alexander Usyk. That's why he's going to be fighting Anthony Joshua. After that, it's going to be the WBA currently. Now, this is without any kind of undisputed, so we can't really include the WBC at this moment. But at some point, it may become a major factor if we end up getting an undisputed fight. But currently, it means that the IBF, whoever does become the IBF mandatory, Filip Hrgovic versus whomever, they're going to end up having to wait probably about 2 years anyway. And if the undisputed fight does happen, of course, that's going to take a year out of the timeline. So you're probably looking at maybe 3 years before the winner of Filip Hrgovic versus whoever is actually going to get a position of fighting, say, Anthony Joshua or whoever it is that's holding the belt at the time. But ultimately, I can understand why some fighters will turn it down, because Filip Hrgovic is a dangerous fight. He's a fighter that probably not going to get paid too much money, as in life-changing money. Don't get me wrong, they're going to get a decent payday, but it won't be life-changing money. It's not going to be the kind of money that a boxer would look at and go, yeah, you know what, even if I lose, hey, cool, show me the money. Okay? But either way, a fighter is a fighter. They should always have at least some kind of ambition, and it would be nice to insert themselves into the mandatory position. But as we go down the list, Charles Martin. Now, he's still ranked at number 2, which does surprise me, as apparently he has turned down a fight with Filip Hrgovic, because Charles Martin was the original choice anyway, due to his particular ranking. But he wants nothing to do with it. So why is he still ranked at number 2? Because when you look after that, okay, you can see Alexander Usyk, but as I said, he's going to the WBO route. So quite clearly, this is a complete waste of ranking for Usyk. But it was Michael Hunter. As we know about the situation with Michael Hunter, they went to purse bid. Filip Hrgovic versus Michael Hunter. Eddie Hearn, he won the purse bid. And Michael Hunter decided to go fight on a Triller card against Mike Wilson. And in fact, I heard on the recent IFL interview that Michael Hunter's got a multi-fight deal with Triller as well. So because he pulled out of that, they demoted him. They dropped him down by at least 7 positions. So why didn't they do that with Charles Martin? That's kind of like my question. Anyway, so as we go down the list, so Filip Hrgovic, he's in pole position. Now, the IBF will offer whoever's next in line the Filip Hrgovic fight. They have to say yes or no, then they'll go to negotiations, and then eventually a purse bid if they can't reach a deal. So Joseph Parker would have been next to have been offered the Filip Hrgovic fight. I would love to have seen that fight, I ain't going to lie. But apparently he can't do it because he's currently carrying an injury. Quite how bad his injury is, I have no idea. Is it something that's going to keep him out of the ring for a long time? Because bearing in mind, the Filip Hrgovic fight isn't going to happen for quite some time anyway. So is it a case of that Joseph Parker just didn't want this Filip Hrgovic fight? Maybe he's using the injury as an excuse, or maybe the injury is quite serious. So in which case, anybody who's waiting for maybe a Parker-Chisora rematch, you could be waiting quite some time for Joseph Parker to get fully recuperated, I suppose. But anyway, that's why he's pulled out of that particular fight. Next in line was Ajit Kabiel. No idea why, but he turned it down. So Ajit Kabiel has no interest in fighting Filip Hrgovic. Don't blame him, to be honest, when you look at their styles. But next is Tony Yoka. But according to Eddie Hearn, Andy Ruiz Jr. has also been offered the Filip Hrgovic fight, and he turned it down. So just by going on these rankings, I can only presume that Andy Ruiz Jr. was above Tony Yoka, but this is just an updated list where Andy Ruiz Jr. has been dropped down a bit. I don't know, but Eddie Hearn said that Andy Ruiz Jr. has actually turned down the Filip Hrgovic fight. So currently, it sits with Tony Yoka. Now, that's a very interesting fight. These guys are both Olympians. Some of you guys will know whether or not these guys have fought in the amateurs and that before. I don't really watch like too much with Olympics and everything myself, although I will make more of an effort this year. So maybe these guys have already fought. I don't know. Would Tony Yoka be interested in a Filip Hrgovic fight? Filip Hrgovic, he's had 12 fights. Tony Yoka's had 10. So you could probably look at it and go, well, both of these were excellent amateurs, and they're both at the same kind of level when it comes to the professional game. Tony Yoka, for only 10 fights in, has a pretty decent resume, does he not? He does. With, say, a Dave Allen on his resume, a Johan Duapa on his resume. You got Filip Hrgovic. Again, very good resume. Already for only 12 fights in. And a lot of people, when they look at the heavyweight landscape for prospects coming through, and they say, right, Filip Hrgovic, Tony Yoka, and that are prospects at the minute because they haven't had a great deal of fights, it could actually be one of these two. Other people will look towards, say, maybe Joe Joyce in the short term. Other people will look at the long term, say, a Daniel Dubois or whoever, okay? But Filip Hrgovic and Tony Yoka are certainly in that conversation. So that'd be a very, very interesting fight. Maybe it's a fight that both of these guys look at and think, do we really need this fight right now? Considering the amount of money that's probably going to be on the line, which probably won't be too much, would they really want to do it? I don't know. But if it does happen, I'll be very interested in watching that fight. But if Tony Yoka says, no, I'm not going to do it, and if Andy Ruiz Jr. has already turned down, it will then go to Luis Ortiz. Would Luis Ortiz take that fight? I wouldn't have thought so. I really wouldn't have thought so. But you never know. You never know. Maybe Luis Ortiz will probably look at that whole landscape of the heavyweight division and think, well, if I'm not going to get the Andy Ruiz Jr. fight myself, why not just take that opportunity? But if I'm going to give a yes or no answer, would Luis Ortiz take Filip Hrgovic? I'll probably say no, if I'm being brutally honest. Because, again, I don't think there's enough money there for Luis Ortiz to risk it. But then it'll go down to Joe Joyce. As we know, Joe Joyce, he was in pole position to be fighting Alexander Usyk for the WBO interim belt. But now it looks like that's totally off the table. Joe Joyce is without a paddle right now, isn't he? So maybe Joe Joyce versus Filip Hrgovic. Yes, please. I would love that fight. I really would. I'll be very, very excited about that fight. But again, if he says no, then it will move on to, well, Michael Hunter's already turned it down. Dempsey McKean, 18-0 from Australia. Then on to Otto Wallin, Zhilei Zhang, and then Martin Bakole. If it gets down to Martin Bakole says no, then it is going to continue down and down and down. Like a Kubrat Pulev will probably get an opportunity. Hughie Fury will be next. I think Hughie Fury is number 16. So that's pretty much the landscape of the IBF situation. So currently it's in the hands of Filip Hrgovic and Tony Yoka. Unless something's happened between yesterday and me recording this video, maybe Yoka's already accepted, or maybe he hasn't, I don't know. But either way, that is the current situation. Filip Hrgovic versus Tony Yoka. If he says no, moves on to, according to Eddie Hearn at least, Luis Ortiz. Drop your thoughts below, quick thumbs up, subscribe, catch you on the next video.